I'm Sonnet with Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and I want to welcome you all to my channel. Now today's video, I'm going to go over my top 8 must-have tools for DIY. I get asked so often about my tools that I use, and I thought I would just take a video and kind of go over what tools I have in my workshop and what I would recommend for you. So for starters, my number one tool that I have in my workshop is my miter saw. This has been something that I wish I would have bought much sooner. It's amazing to have to cut boards, I can just do so much with it. For the longest time, I relied on my dad so heavily for all of his tools. I was constantly going over there, cutting stuff, borrowing tools. So once I realized I just needed to get my own arsenal of tools, this was the very first thing I purchased. I went out on Marketplace and I found a fella who actually was a collector of saws, which is kind of odd. He had 3 different kinds. So he had a Makita, he had a DeWalt, and I can't remember the third one he had. But he was selling his Makita, and the things that I really liked about the Makita was, number one, it does have a slider, so the saw does slide back and forth when you cut. I absolutely love that. I also love that it does a full 12 inches, 12-inch board, so it's got that. This also does not just straight cuts, but it also does all miter cuts as well. So this has been a tool you can obviously see. It's very dirty. It definitely gets used. So I definitely got my money's worth out of this, and if you can afford one of those, I would highly recommend it if you're doing DIY. This is a tool that you're gonna want to use PPE on, such as glasses and even a pair of gloves. I find just following other channels, there's been a couple injuries that I had seen posted on some of the channels, some of the Facebook pages, and it's just not necessary. If you use the right precautions, you will not get hurt if you just keep your fingers out of the way of it. And this guard is so important too. When you buy a saw, make sure it does have that guard on there. It really does protect you. So if it doesn't have one, I would not buy one. All right, so that is number one. Number two, the second thing that I bought that I wish that I would have bought much sooner in my DIY career is my brad nailer. Honestly, this has been a lifesaver for so many projects that I've been using. It is an 18 gauge brad nailer, so I can use 1-inch brad nails, 1.5 or 2-inch. I found the 1-inch sometimes just doesn't give it as much stability, so my go-to really is like 1.5 or 2 inches. Very interchangeable. I love that it does have a battery as well. If this is something that you've been thinking about doing or purchasing, I would recommend it. It is definitely a lifesaver. So that is number 2 on my list, the brad nailer. And number 3, everyone has to have a drill. Honestly, like when I talked about earlier, I relied on my dad so often. He's got a couple of these, and I would always just go over, hey Dad, I need to borrow it, and for whatever project I was doing, and then he would come over and he's like, hey, are you done with my drill? Yeah, I guess. I always just kept it too long, so I just decided I was gonna go out, buy my own. So again, the battery operated is definitely the way to go. And then go ahead at the same time when you're buying your drill, buy drill bits. And this is great to have because it has all different bits, all different sizes, everything you need, and very inexpensive. So I would highly recommend that at the same time. So that is number 3. Number 4, I absolutely love this too. When I'm doing all my barn quilts, I use this. I use this to just all the time. Now I actually have 2 of them because I use them so often. But this is an orbital sander, and it is by far one of my favorites. I think it probably was around like $50, so not a huge investment. And again, I wish I would have gotten this much sooner as well. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My fifth one would be my jigsaw. And this baby was given to me. So if I were to buy a different jigsaw in the future, it would definitely be a Makita. I love it. But it would be cordless rather than the cord. But to have those, a jigsaw, it's just so easy to cut different things out, or if I am at my booth and I don't have my big saw available, just to make a quick cut here or there, whatever I'm trying to do, I always like to have it with me. So that is definitely another recommendation that I would have in my arsenal of tools. All right, this may not seem like a tool, but if you can get these, they are the Sawhorses that collapse. They're plastic. I found these in the garbage. They're a little beat up, but honestly, I love how they collapse and fold down so easily. You can put them in your vehicle when you want to, be on the go. Store them very easy. I do have a couple sets that are wood. They just take up so much space, and so I will be getting a new set of these in the future because these are a little beat up, but I would highly recommend a collapsible set of Sawhorses. It makes life so much easier. I do not have my next item out here, but it is my table saw. So my table saw has, I've had it now for a couple months, and it is a newer tool that I haven't used a whole lot, but I wish I would have gotten it much sooner because I can do things with it that I have, I just like saw down bigger boards. There's just so many things that I wish that I could have used it for past projects, and then I can't wait to use for future projects. That has been my biggest investment, was my table saw. I did spend $600 on it, and it's been a very good, useful tool so far. So lastly, but not least, is everyone needs a toolbox. And this is my go-to toolbox. It's kind of like my grab and go. I always have it ready to go to my booths, be on the road, for setup. It's kind of everything I need. So in here, you're gonna find, I always carry my staple gun or stapler and my extra staples. I do staple on a lot of tags, and for whatever reason I may need it. I always carry an extra pair of safety glasses in case I need those for something. A set of scissors. It's just amazing, like you'll need to cut something, and then to have that available. All right, I always bring tape just in case. My pencils. I always bring extra tags, rope, or like twine, I should say, and then that's just my little puncher to punch my tag to re-tag items. I always have to have a hammer. I have several of these. I am losing my hammers. Another thing that I always seem to lose are my tape measures. I just definitely need to get a couple and have them strategically placed in different areas, because that is one thing I feel like I wish I could attach it to me on a rope or something, because I'm always setting it down and I lose it. I always bring extra sandpaper, my sanding block, just in case I need that. Screws, you always want to have extra screws and nails also in your toolbox. I do have, for my brad nailer, I always have my brad nails. The two different sizes I use the most I have in there. I always bring screwdrivers, or have my screwdrivers available, a flat end just in case I need to open something, or I like to do different sizes too, just in case. It's always great to have your screw gun, but sometimes what happens is you may not even be able to use a screw gun. Get in and it's amazing. Go back to the standard screwdriver. All right, I also use this to scrape off some tags, to scrape when I am refinishing, when I scrape the paint off of something. So that has been a very, very handy tool as well. Now, I do use a couple of these. I have a metal clipper. This does cut any types of like metal sheeting. This has been a very awesome tool that I love having. I also like to have a needle nose pliers if I need to get a staple out or something out. These work awesome for that. And then I have a heavy duty metal like wire cutter, and I also have another smaller wire cutter. And love both of these. I could not live without a wire cutter. And then I have this tiny little one just in case I need to get in somewhere, and I can. So if I were to start off, I would say, well, my number one thing obviously would be my screw gun. But then number two, I would go to my table saw that I absolutely love, or my miter saw that I absolutely love. Not only can, like I said, can you cut straight cuts, you can do miter cuts, you know, different angles. That has by far been my best investment ever. So I hope you all got something out of this today. It's just a real quick, short video, but I wanted to give you my top 8 recommendations for DIY if you were getting started, what items you will need. So all right, well, if this was a video you liked, go ahead and hit that like button. My channel is all about DIY, upcycling, thrifting, flipping, just the day in the life of a small business owner. So if you like that type of channel, go ahead, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments what is going to be your number one tool, or what is your number one tool of choice that you always, your go-to choice tool. So put that in the comments, and we're going to see you then Friday. Bye.